Alright, beautiful people, let's pop on over to the Discord, drop some notifications. We are live. Always try to send at least 2 over there, don't want to send too many. Comments, let's get the comments pulled up, let's see who's going to be first in the chat today. This is always a interesting part of each stream to see who gets first in the chat. There we go, we got those comments pulled up. Now we're going to go ahead and do this, just in case. Don't know why it works like that, but it does. Alright, let's see. Brian got first. What's up, Brian? Brian coming in with a first today. Sean, Olivia, Sanchez, what's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. What is with Google today? Why is Google like a, what is that, like a porcupine or something? I don't know, summer 2021, okay. Owen, what's up, dude? Omar, what's up? You could say that, Sean. You could say it's the title is related to exposure therapy, or you could say the title is acceptance. Acceptance. To be with the fear. Stop trying to make it go away, right? No second fear. No second fear, as we like to call it. What's up, Maddie? What's up, Blake? What's up, Christine? We're going to get this stream started in just a minute. We've already got a packed chat today. We have already got a packed chat today. How's everybody doing? What's up, Sam? Welcome, guys. Welcome, everybody. Packed chat today, so we won't have to wait that long to get this one started. There's definitely plenty of people in here already, but we will give it another minute or so. Everyone, welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's funny you say that, Sean, about it being like relatable to exposure. You could definitely say that. At the same time, though, if you think about it, acceptance, it's really all the same thing. It's really all the same thing, because if we're talking about acceptance, which means no second fear, or at least practicing less second fear, what you're essentially doing is cutting out trying to argue with all of it and fight with it, which I guess makes you feel a little bit better short term, but you're essentially trying to cut out all those compulsions and be with the fear without all that junk. So at the same time, you could call acceptance in general. I mean, you could call the whole acceptance method and no second fear, you could call that exposure, really. You could honestly really call that exposure. How are you, Wonder Bro? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. All right, guys, we've already got a full chat. We might as well go ahead and get this one started. Anxiety recovery, be with the fear until the fear becomes less. Now, everybody's heard this, I'm sure, right? Now, everybody can kind of agree on that. I think everybody's heard this concept. Everybody's heard of what Sean, referred to as exposure. Everyone's heard of the concept of be with the fear until the fear becomes less, right? Be with the fear until the fear becomes less. Um, with exposure, you work your way up. Don't have to jump into something terrifying straight away. You are right, Sean, but it's up to the person. It really depends on the person. The person is allowed to go about it however they want to go about it, right? And Brian, for example, I mean, he is busting balls, dude. He is kicking ass. But just for example, you can go at your own pace. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going at your own pace. But all right, let's get back into it. So everyone knows the whole concept, or has at least heard of the whole concept of being with fear until fear becomes less. Now, some people look at that in the way of they're like, okay, well that's more or less for specific triggers, right? That's more or less for specific triggers that we want to tackle, Wonder Bro. What do you want about? And I'm here to tell you that when it comes to the whole exposure thing or being with fear until fear becomes less, this is acceptance in general. This is not just tackling specific fears. Like, let's say, I have a fear of airplanes. This is not just tackling specific fears. When it comes to being with fear until fear becomes less, this is acceptance in general. Right? And the thing about it is, some people then ask the question, well, how is that possible? What do you mean by that? And what I mean by that is you're not actually being with the fear if you're fighting the fear. So a lot of people think, well, if I'm not, if I don't have a specific trigger that I need to face, then I'm doing it right. I'm doing this whole be with fear until fear becomes less thing. But here's the thing. If you're with fear, but you're adding second fear to it, you're not actually being with the fear. You're not actually facing the fear. You're not actually being with the fear. So it is, let's say you're just going on about your regular, normal, everyday life, and you're in a sensitized nervous system. You don't have any specific triggers really to face. Everything is just kind of triggering you at the moment. You're not actually being with that fear if you're still fighting with that fear. So, just because you're not tackling a specific trigger, if you're still fighting with that fear, if you're still adding second fear to that fear, or trying to, soothe yourself in some way with all of these compulsions and safety seeking behaviors, if you're still in somewhat of a fight with that fear, or if you're still arguing with that fear, or if you're still trying your best to not feel that fear by doing whatever it is that you do, right? By doing whatever it is that you do. I don't know what your compulsions are, but if you're doing any of that, you're not actually being with the fear, right? You're not actually giving yourself a chance, a fair chance to be with the fear until the fear becomes less. Now, let's give a very practical example of that. Let's give a very practical example of that, of what that would look like in a sensitized person's journey, right? So, if I'm a sensitized person and I've got all these thoughts that are coming in every single day and they're causing a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiety comes with these thoughts. And every time I get one of these thoughts, I jump on Google and try to debunk it, right? I jump on Google and I try to debunk it, or I get up in my head and I try to I try to debate with my mind. I get into a street fight with my mind about why this what if thing, or why this possible bad thing won't happen, right? And I'm doing this all day and I'm doing this every day, right? You're not actually being with the fear at that point, right? You're not actually being with the fear until the fear becomes less. You're not. So somebody in the chat said, how about me? I worry about having a stroke. Well, if every time you have a stroke, you jump on Google and you start looking at statistics about why you won't have a stroke, or you jump into your head and you start telling your mind, look, make that thought go away. I don't want to think that thought. I'm not going to have a stroke. Okay. I'm too young to have a stroke. And then you argue back and forth with your mind all day long. Your body and your brain is never going to get the chance to come to the conclusion that the thought of having a stroke does not deserve the alarm of anxiety, right? So therefore, every time you have the thought of possibly having a stroke, your body is going to send you an alarm. It's going to put you into an alarm state, right? Because you have never given it a chance to learn that the what if I have a stroke thought is something that does not deserve to come along with a ton of anxiety that's going to, be there with you for the rest of your day. Your body has never been given the chance to learn that, so you've not been with the fear until the fear becomes less. You have had plenty of fear, don't get me wrong, and this applies to everybody. You have had plenty of fear. Nobody's saying you haven't had plenty of fear. You've had plenty of fear, but you've not been with the fear until the fear becomes less. And you might say, well, yes, I've been with this fear. Trust me, I've been with it. But you've not been with it in the way that you're not trying to run from it. You have been with the fear. Yes, you are correct. You have been with the fear, but you have not been with the fear in the way that you're not trying to run with it or fight with it. So every time, that's a perfect example. Every time you get the thought, what if you have a stroke? You jump on Google and you start reading statistics about why you won't have a stroke, or you start looking up symptoms of a stroke, right? This is something you do every single day. I'm not saying that is what you do, but this is just examples. You start getting up in your head, arguing with your mind, getting into this big street fight with your mind about why you won't have a stroke, and you do this over and over and over and over and over again, right? So yes, you are having plenty of fear, but you're not being with the fear. You are trying to run from it, you're trying to fight it, you're trying to comfort yourself in some way. You're never giving your body a chance to see these fears for what they are. Your body is never, your brain is never given the chance to see these fears for what they are. Because you are always fighting with it, you are always running from it, you are always trying not to feel it, you are always doing something to be in a combative state against the fear, and this is what we call second fear. Is what Dr. Claire Weeks calls second fear. And since you are adding all this second fear, you never give your brain that chance. Since you are adding all of this second fear, you are becoming triggered, and then you're triggering yourself over being triggered, and then the cycle continues, right? You're becoming triggered, you are triggering yourself over being triggered, that's second fear, and then the cycle continues. Of course, your nerves never get a chance to catch a break when this is how you go about it. Of course, your brain never gets a chance to learn that these fears are not real dangers when all you do is keep sending danger signals, right? So of course your nerves never get a chance to catch a break. Of course your brain never gets to learn that these thoughts are not real dangers, that there is not a real tiger in the room with you. Of course your brain never gets to learn. How could it? Right? When you're always in this combative state of second fear, when you're triggering yourself on top of being triggered. You're triggered and then you triggered yourself about being triggered, right? So how could your brain learn that there is no real danger when you're sending all of these danger signals, when you're consciously choosing to send all of these danger signals, right? Because you don't want to be with the fear. Because you don't want to be with the fear that these thoughts and feelings bring, you try to combat them, which, as we all know, if you've been here on the channel for a while, is a losing battle. And because you try to combat them, you send more danger signals on top of the false alarm. So here you go. You get the false alarm, you combat it, whether you try to run from it or fight it, whatever it is that you're doing, you send more danger signals. So, you know, that's the thing. We get the false alarm, we become combative towards the false alarm, then we send more danger signals on top of the false alarm, then we get more false alarms. We never give our brain a chance to see that right through, and that's exactly what Dr. Claire Weeks meant by see it right through. Um, so, people will read the title of this stream and they'll think, well, Wonder Bro, I've got plenty of fear. What do you mean be with the fear? All I've ever done is be with the fear. You haven't been with the fear in such a way that you can teach your brain that it's not needed. You've been with the fear, yes, but you have been with the fear in such a way that you're sending more danger signals on top of it, right? You got to be with the fear without the combative stance. You've got to be with the fear without the mentally arguing with it, trying to prove it wrong, trying to give yourself some sort of comfort by proving it wrong, which, by the way, you guys know is just a cycle. It's just a hamster wheel. You never actually get that full relief. You might get short-term relief, but it comes down to this, guys. If you want to actually be with the fear in the way that you need to be with the fear in order for your brain to learn, you have to be with that fear with an attitude of so be it, which means whatever thoughts come, so be it. Whatever feelings come, so be it. The moment you catch yourself getting into a combative attitude with these thoughts and feelings, which is to say, the moment that you mentally log in and start to get into a combative attitude with these thoughts and feelings, whether that be telling yourself horror stories about the feelings, whether that be trying to prove these thoughts wrong, whether that be arguing with these thoughts, same thing, really. You know, as long as you mentally are logging in this combative attitude with these thoughts and feelings, you are sending more danger signals. Your brain never gets a chance to learn. Now, if you want to be with fear the right way, you have to see it right through, as Dr. Claire Weeks calls it. And that means that you have to practice, we love the word practice, you have to practice adopting a mental attitude, okay, which takes some conscious effort, it takes some dedication, it takes some work. You have to practice the attitude of whatever thoughts come, so be it. So when you notice these thoughts, even if they don't leave right away, even if you don't believe the words you speak, even if your voice trembles, you have to practice saying, so be it. I'm going to see it right through. If it wants to bug me for the next 4 hours, so be it. If my anxiety wants to peak over this, so be it. Right? You have to practice being with fear until that fear lessens, right? Without being in a combative attitude. You have to practice being with fear, and that consists of the thoughts and feelings that come along with the anxiety, right? Without trying to fight them away or trying not to feel them. And how do you go about trying not to feel them? You do all these compulsions and safety seeking behaviors. All of this is just prolonging it in the long run, right? Right? Official G, dude. Official. I'll get to that in just a second, dude. Thank you so much. All of this is just prolonging it in the long run, right? We get this short-term relief. Eventually, we don't get much relief from any of this, but we still do it because it's habit. We get this short-term relief. We feel the fear. We don't want to feel the fear. We don't want to have the thoughts, so we do the compulsions. The compulsion is fighting with the thoughts, going on Google, trying to debunk the thoughts, telling yourself things like, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this. What can I do to not feel this? Working yourself up, trying to fight it all, trying to find this way out, right? This is all extra danger signals on top of the first fear. This is what we call second fear. So I know a lot of you are going to read the title and say, like I said, I've been with the fear, Wonder Bro. What do you mean? I've been with it for a long time. But you've not been with it in such a way that you're seeing it right through. You've been with it in a way where you're just barely scraping by. and you're just barely getting by with your compulsions, whether that be reassurance 24/7, and there's nothing wrong with supporting a little bit of reassurance, but you'll need less of that in time. But whether that be 24-hour reassurance, or whether that be Googling all day, or whether that be trying to prove these thoughts wrong instead of just accepting the uncertainty of life, or, you're trying to do something to give yourself some sort of relief, which is understandable as a human being, but you got to understand you're sending the wrong message to your brain. You're barely scraping by, just sending the wrong message to your brain. You're barely just squeezing by. Okay, doing your best to avoid as much anxiety as possible, doing your best to avoid the thoughts as much as possible, doing your best to fight these feelings and thoughts, to the best of your ability. Um, you're just barely scraping by. And I think a lot of us can agree on that. And although that's a habit, and I know habits are, it's easier said than done to break a bad habit, although that's a habit, it's true. You're just barely scraping by. You're trying to go about it each day. Okay, how can I feel as little anxiety as possible? And when I do get these thoughts and feelings, what can I do to bring myself some comfort? What can I do to run away from them? What can I do to fight them? What can I do to prove them wrong? What can I do to make them stop? These are the questions you're living by. And these are not the questions that are going to lead you to recovery. The questions you need to live by are, what can I do today to embrace this anxiety? What can I do today to get myself into the attitude of, give me all the thoughts you want to give me? Give me all the feelings you want to give me. A lot of people want to tiptoe their way around anxiety. And that was me. That was me for a very long time, guys. A lot of people want to tiptoe their way around anxiety. A lot of people want to play it safe around anxiety. A lot of people want to play it safe around the thoughts and the feelings. A lot of people just want to play it safe. And that is not the way to recovery. And that offends some people. That really does. That offends some people, hear that, and that offends them. How dare you tell me I'm trying to tiptoe my way around anxiety? Unfortunately, I have to tell you that. Because if I don't tell you that, you're going to spend a very long time doing just that. Because there is no way to tiptoe around fear. And that's not something to be upset about. That's not something to be frustrated about. It's just something you have to realize. That if you want your brain to learn that these thoughts and feelings are not real dangers, you're going to have to feel it. And I don't mean feel it in the way that you've been feeling it. I don't mean just barely scraping by each day, trying not to give in to these thoughts and feelings, and just barely, always trying to get that little compulsion, and always trying to do what you can to make the thoughts and feelings go away. Right? That's not how you need to feel it. If you want to overcome this thing, you've got to look it directly in the eye. Right? You've got to look it directly in the eye. And that means each day when you get up, if you have anxiety, so be it. If you have thoughts, so be it. You're not going to immediately mentally jump into, how do I make it go away? You're not going to immediately jump into sending more danger signals. You're not going to immediately go into that withdrawal and say, I don't want to feel this, right? You're going to have to start to embrace it. You're going to have to start to feel it. And that means you're going to have to start to feel it in the right way, which is to feel it without trying to make it go away, which is to feel it without trying to combat it. And that's going to, that's going to consist a lot of catching yourself in the moment when you start to fight with these thoughts and feelings, and taking a step back and you saying, so be it. I'm going to let it run right through. I'm not going to try to reach for that quick solution. I'm not going to, I've been scraping by for years. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to see it right through, as Dr. Claire Weeks calls it. And eventually, you'll see this fear start to lessen. But don't go looking over your shoulder saying, is this working? No, just stick with it. Just stick with it. I need to feel this fear. I need to feel this fear to heal it. I need to feel it to heal it. I need to feel this fear for it to burn itself up. And I need to shut up in the process, right? A lot of people don't like to be told to shut up, but that's essentially what this is. You're not going to be adding any more danger signals. You're going to say, I'm going to be as scared as I am. I'm going to allow myself to be as scared as my mind wants to make me be. And I'm going to keep that attitude. And I'm going to keep that attitude. And the moment I catch myself fighting, which is going to happen because it's a bad habit, I'm going to take that step back and I'm going to switch right back to true acceptance, right? Right? So Craig in the chat says, I'm afraid of going insane, crazy, afraid of cuckoo, afraid of dementia. I've been very days forgetful. So you have to understand that, and then embrace that. If I go crazy, where's the nearest straitjacket? Because I'm about to lose my mind. There you go. Now, you don't want to do that because that's going to make you afraid to do that, but you got to understand you're living a miserable existence when you're always trying to appease the mind. So the mind says you might go crazy, and you say, well, let me give you 100 reasons why that won't happen. Let me search up all the WebMD articles on dementia. Let me search up all the Google forums on the likelihood and statistics of going crazy. Let me get all of this reassurance that I can possibly get, and let me search every little WebMD form that I can possibly search in order to appease my mind. Now, when you live that way, you're miserable. Okay? But the only alternative to that is to face it. And people don't want to do that, and I completely understand, but I'm here to tell you it's time to do it because I know you don't want to be miserable. So when your mind says something like you might go insane, you have to say, so be it. If I go insane, break out the straitjacket, somebody serve me some fucking applesauce, right? Somebody serve me some fucking applesauce. I'm ready for it. Because here's the paradox. The more you try to appease your mind and prove to your mind that these stupid thoughts are not true, the more it just says, okay, well, then that must be important. Look at how much they're arguing with it. Look at how much they're fighting with it. Look at how much they don't want that to happen. This must be very important. Make sure you make a note of that and send it back to them as much as possible because this is obviously very important. Look at how they're acting, right? But when you just say, hey, do what you will, say what you will, because you know in your heart this is all BS anyway. And you also know in your heart that your worry is not going to do anything to prevent anything when it comes to 90% of these ridiculous thoughts. Now, if there's real action you can take in life, go ahead and take it. Make your best choice. But these thoughts are ridiculous. Most of them are ridiculous, right? And even the ones that aren't completely that far-fetched, right? One day I might have a heart attack, not over anxiety, but people have heart attacks, right? But sitting around and trying to appease my mind about it is just making me absolutely miserable. I'm not actually gaining anything. I'm not actually getting anywhere, right? So there's no way to tiptoe around fear. You can try to appease your mind for years and years and years. You're never going to do it. And I think you guys know that. If you didn't, you wouldn't be on my chat because that would have worked. Because what's the first go-to for every human being? The first go-to is to fight with all this shit. And when that doesn't work, you find this fat tattooed guy on YouTube who's telling you, hey, it's time to stop that. It's time to cut that out because obviously that's not working for you. So let's try a different approach. Let's try to stop trying to appease the mind. Let's try to stop trying to appease what the mind wants. Let's stop being the one on the leash. Right? And let's just say whatever thoughts come, so be it. Whatever feelings come, so be it. Let's embrace the fear that comes with accepting uncertainty. Let's embrace the fear that comes with accepting this bad thing might happen. Now, that's not to say you agree with it. That's not to say if your mind says you're going to go crazy that you actually believe you're going to go crazy. It's just to say you're no longer fighting with this toddler anymore, right? Because the reason you fight with these thoughts is because you don't like the way that they make you feel. And this is a perpetuating cycle. You're stuck in a hamster wheel. You don't like the way these thoughts make you feel, so you fight them to try to keep them at bay. And every single day you have to take up arms and fight these thoughts and keep them at bay every single day. And it's exhausting and you're tired. And I know you're very, very tired. Because every single day you try to keep these thoughts at bay because you don't like the way that they make you feel. Well, what if we go a different way? What if we accept the way that they make us feel and we see it right through, even if that leads to some very, very strong feelings, but we're no longer going to take up arms and try to keep these thoughts at bay? Because if the longer we try to keep them at bay, the more miserable we become. So we really have two options. We can spend the rest of our lives trying to keep these thoughts at bay, taking up arms every single day, making ourselves more and more and more and more and more exhausted, or we can finally say, you win. You've won. I'm no longer going to fight with you. I'm no longer going to argue with you because I'm tired and I deserve better. So when these thoughts come and when these feelings come, I'm going to let them completely take me wherever they want to take me. And that means I'm no longer going to give an input a fight. If a thought comes, so be it. If a feeling comes, so be it. And whatever happens is going to happen to me. But it's better than the alternative, which is living my life stuck in this hamster wheel. I'm going for a cigarette. All right. All right, chat. Let's see. We did get a $20 tip. We did get a $20 tip from Official G. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much, Official, for the $20 tip. I'm going to update that before I do get that cigarette. Let's see, right there, $20 tip, Official G. Show them some love in the chat, please. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you watching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you, dude. Appease, what does appease mean? Appease means to try to make the mind happy by trying to the mind says you might go crazy, and then you're like, oh, mind, here, let me try to prove that that won't happen so that you can relax a little bit, all right? But instead, we're not going to do that anymore because it's never happy, right? It's never happy. It's never happy. So there's no appeasing it. There's really no appeasing it, and you're miserable trying to do that, right? You're miserable trying to do that. Oh, well, we can't smoke a cigarette unless I actually bring my cigarettes with me, so maybe we should go grab those. Maybe we should go grab those, chat. So basically, in conclusion, what have we learned today? We've learned that if we want to get to a place where we feel better, we have to first face everything that is making us not feel good, which means we have to face anxiety, which means we have to stop fighting with it. We have to say, take me as far as you want to take me. I'm no longer going to try to run from you or fight with you or get up in my head and mentally argue with you, right? Let's see. I'm going to pull up some comments. $2 tip from Sam. Sam, thank you so much, dude. I'll try to remember to update that when I get back to the setup. Don't let me forget, guys. Don't let me forget. Absolutely, Christina will always be a complete waste of time. Always want more and more. That's a good way to put it, Sean. It's never ending, dude. That mind wants more and more. It wants more and more of your involvement. It wants more and more of you trying to prove these thoughts wrong. It wants you to have 100% certainty. And then, we give into this because we don't like the way these thoughts make us feel. So then we fight with them to try to feel better. And it's the wrong approach to take because it's just growing them. It's growing. It's fertilizer, right? So it's time to face uncertainty until the mind starts to learn that these things are not real dangers, which it will, if you can be with that fear without fighting with it, right? Which is what you've been doing for so long, um, you know. But you're right. The mind just wants more and more and more. It's never appeased. Especially we're talking about anxiety here. Especially with these anxious thoughts. And the more that you try to just get this certainty and fight with them, the stronger they become. We gotta be able to sit with that fear and let it burn itself up without all of the compulsions like mentally fighting with it. We just say so be it to these thoughts. We keep that attitude, right? Craig says maybe if I had a girlfriend, anxiety would be less. Yeah, that's wishful thinking. What do you mean less? More. I'm kidding. Kidding. It's a joke. But Craig, do you see the problem here, dude? It's like I can't get it through to you. Do you see the problem? You said maybe if I had a girlfriend, anxiety would be less. Why are you trying to find ways to make anxiety less? That's not what we're doing. We want to recover, yes, that is the end goal, and I'm not taking your end goal away from you. But while you're feeling it, it's about feeling it without trying to find ways to make it less. The whole point, okay, is to feel it and stop trying to find ways to make it less. Right? You get that? Right? Can we all agree on that? So we've got to stop trying to find ways to make it stop because that is the fight. And you might find, sure, you might find little things that temporarily bring you some short term relief. We call this coping methods. But in the long run, as long as you have that concrete attitude of how do I not feel anxiety, that is a sure way to feel it. That is a sure way to get more of it. We have to switch and practice the attitude of whatever thoughts come, come. Whatever feelings come, right? Right? Come. Because we can't continue to try to find ways to make it less. Now I know that you're gonna, you want to recover in the end. I give you that. That's fine. But during the process to get there, we have to stop fighting. To stop fighting, we have to stop asking the question, how do I make anxiety less? It's the wrong question to ask, right? It's the wrong question to ask. It's not the question that we want to be asking, because it's the question that has got us where we are. It's the question that has kept us, kept you exactly where you are. So we've got to switch that attitude off and practice an accepting attitude so we can show the brain what's up. We got to get to that accepting attitude. Somebody says, I'm bored of trying to figure it all out. Great, because there's nothing to figure out and everything to embrace. And that is the ironic part of this journey. There's no perfect formula, and that's why the two main keys are just live your life. Just live your life, how you would normally want to live it. And when these thoughts and feelings come, don't fight them. Just say, so be it. And yes, that's going to make you uncomfortable. And yes, you're going to feel it, but you have to feel it to heal it, right? So we don't want to ask ourselves the question, how do I make it less? We don't want to ask ourselves the question, how do I make it go away? These are all the habits that got you here on my channel to begin with, right? So I think everybody in chat kind of sees what I'm getting at. I think everybody in chat kind of sees what I'm getting at. Hey, who was that? Who was that? I can't see it. I can't see it. Now I can see it. Terry. Terry, dude, thank you so much for the $25 tip, Terry. I really appreciate it. Dude, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a minute. If this is the same Terry I'm thinking about. But regardless, thank you for the $25 tip. So let's see. 27 needs to be added to the tip goal. Don't let me forget that, guys. Yeah, you got to take care of yourself, Craig. You got to do the basics. You know what I mean? You got to do the basics. I know appetite is not always high when you're anxious, but you at least got to eat a little something. Trust me, I quit eating for a long time when I was on my journey. It was a mistake. It just makes you feel even more tired, more exhausted, to not have any energy in your body. So at least try to eat a little something. Got to take care of yourself. Someone said every stream is better than the last one. I've been really fired up here recently, for the most part. Some streams, I guess, are a little boring, but I've been really fired up for most streams. I don't know what's gotten into me. Just feel it, Summer. Just feel it. Yeah, if it was a real danger, you'd be dead already. If it was a real danger, you wouldn't have time to overthink it. It would just be action, and that's what anxiety and panic's for. When it's a real danger, you don't have time to care about the anxiety and panic or think about it. You just have time to make, choices and to perform an action, right? So you are correct on that, Sean. I mean, you can become self-aware and you can see your own bad habits in action, right? You can see your own bad habits in action. Like Craig, for example. Of course, I'm not trying to call you out, Craig, but I do know that you have been to the doctor and cleared by a doctor many, many, many times, and a lot of us here have done the same thing. Um, But my point is, you have been cleared many, 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 many times. So when you say things like, "Is this common with anxiety? Is this?" You're still trying to, you're still trying to get the fear to go away. Do you see? Does everyone see that? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to just single you out, Craig. Everybody here is guilty of doing pretty much the same thing, myself included, in the past. So I'm not trying to single you out. But do you see what I'm getting at here? When you ask things like, and it's okay to ask questions. But you're at this point you're in a very bad habit of it. So do you see how you're trying your best to make the fear go away by getting some sort of approval that this is quote unquote normal, even though you've already been cleared by the doctor more years than I've been alive, right? Do you see how you're still in some way trying to make that fear go away? Do you see how you're still trying in some way to ease yourself? We don't want to ease ourselves. We don't want to try to make the fear go away. You're trying desperately, and it's out of habit. You are right. It's out of habit. You are trying to desperately make yourself feel less fear. There we go. You are trying to desperately make yourself feel less fear. And this is the problem, because when you desperately try to, thank you so much, Abraham. When you desperately try to make yourself feel less fear, it is a surefire way to feel more fear. And that is the very ironic thing about fear. The more you try to get the fear to go away with whatever bad habits of fighting that you use, the more you tell your brain, danger, danger, danger. So do you see the cycle here? And that's why Dr. Claire Weeks knew better than anyone that first fear, the feelings and thoughts, is out of your control. But second fear is what's going to make the difference. She knew that because she knew when you try to fight fear and you try to get it to go away, you're making yourself even more afraid in the long run. We call these coping methods because they might help temporarily. Like if I was to tell you, yes, Craig, all of those symptoms are very completely normal, and I do tell people that. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of reassurance, but if you do this day after day after day after day after day, your brain is never going to get the chance to see that there's nothing wrong. Because you're always trying to avoid fear to the best of your ability. You are barely just scraping by trying to avoid fear and get this fear to go away. And the ironic thing about fear is the more you try to fight fear, the more your brain thinks there's a problem, therefore you get more fear. In the long run, this is what keeps people stuck. In the short term, you might think, okay, these coping methods are working. But that's why people come back and they're like, well, an hour later I felt miserable again, or 15 minutes later here comes another one, right? So that's why Dr. Claire Weeks broke it down like that. That's why she knew first and second fear was so important, because the more you try to run away from fear, the quicker it seems to catch up. So if you want your brain to learn that these thoughts are not real dangers, if you want your brain to learn that there is not a real danger present, you cannot continue to fight it. Because the more you continue to fight it, the more it continues to assume that there must be a real problem. And this is what keeps people in the cycle. If you want your brain to rewrite these pathways of fear and come to the conclusion eventually, over time, not instantly, but if you want your brain to rewrite these pathways of fear and eventually come to the conclusion that there is no real danger, you have to prove that to your brain by no longer fighting with it. Because a fight to the brain means one thing, and that's danger. And that's what we mean by you have to feel it to heal it while being quiet, shutting up, and adopting that attitude of, it is what it is, so be it. Right? Right? It is what it is, so be it. So let's see here. We had a $2 tip from Sam, and then we had a $25 tip from Terry. What does that put us at? Let's see. I can't do basic math. We also had a tip from, hold on, somebody else just literally sent a tip. Who was it? Abraham? Was it Abraham? Yes, it was Abraham. Abraham, thank you so much, dude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That puts us at 52. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. You're always welcome for the Money Gray stream, like always, my friend. I appreciate it, Terry. Thank you, dude. Hope you had a good camping trip. I think it was you who said you recently went camping, right? Just remember, fear leads to more fear. Exactly. You have to be able to welcome it and mean it. So, and that's a practice, right? You got to practice that attitude. You got to practice that attitude. Don't struggle. Hey, Wonder Bro, how do you deal with the constant feelings of anxiety, dizziness, heart palpitations, vision stuff, etc.? How do you keep reminding yourself the two keys? It's so exhausting. It can feel exhausting, but remember that a fight will get you nowhere. So let's keep it short, sweet, and simple, right? Let's not try to overcomplicate it or try to come up with this big, perfect formula. When it comes to the symptoms, we want to keep it short, sweet, and simple. We want to keep this attitude of acceptance short, sweet, and simple because it's really easy to start to dive too deep with it and overcomplicate it. So you're feeling a lot of anxiety symptoms, just remember one thing, so be it. Just remember one thing, there's nothing I can do about it. You can start to fight with them, sure. I mean, I guess technically you could do that about it, but you know that's not going to work. You know that's just exhausting, and you know that gets you nowhere, and it just works you up. So you can even remember that. There's nothing I can do about it. Isn't that so true, though? Isn't that so true? Some people might hear that, and they might think, well, that's a very depressing way to look at it. But no, it's very liberating. When we're talking about anxiety symptoms here, you tell me one logical thing that you can do about it, right? When we're talking about these anxiety symptoms, you tell me one logical thing that you can do about it because I guaranteed you've already tried everything. I guarantee, or you wouldn't be here. Let's be honest, you wouldn't be here if all of the stuff that you've tried before works. So some people might hear me say, well, there's nothing you can do about it. And you need to remind yourself that in the moment so you don't start adding second fear. Because that's what second fear is, essentially, is you trying to do something about it, working yourself up, trying to do something about it, right? So it's not depressing when I say there's nothing you can do about it. It's very liberating when I say that there's nothing you can do about it, because now you can stop trying to do something about it. And you can just use those two main keys. Live your life, stop fighting with it all. So essentially, the two main keys boils down to there's nothing you can do about it, right? Isn't that ironic in a way? So it's not depressing when I say that. It's actually very liberating, because doing something about it is just second fear. It's just trying to control it. It's trying to fight it. It's just exhausting. It's just second fear. So if it helps, simply remind yourself, what can I do about these symptoms? There's nothing I can do about it, right? Because the moment you start trying to do something about it, that's when you wind up in trouble, isn't it? That's when you start to get really worked up, isn't it? Now, you've been doing great, Brian. Do not start to get back into your head. What can I do about these symptoms? How can I make these a symptom? No, 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 no. We want to keep you in the attitude of there's nothing I can do about it. I'm living my life, right? That's the attitude you need to have. And like I said, that might sound depressing at first. It's not depressing. It's very liberating once you truly understand what I'm trying to say there. Last night I had trouble sleeping. Finally went to sleep and got woken up by an idiot neighbor popping loud fireworks. Gotta love it. My body got instant symptoms, adrenaline in my arms, but no anxiety. That's normal. Yes, it's normal. Well, I mean, the term anxiety is a very broad term. Some people use the term anxiety when they're talking about symptoms. So some people may have asked that question and said, my body got instant anxiety. Right? So people use the term anxiety. Some people are referring to their symptoms directly, blah, 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 blah. But yes, that's normal. Going to the pub with my mates tomorrow. My mind is trying to tell me it'll go wrong, but it always goes better than I thought. So you obviously go to the pub with your friends regularly, right? That's kind of what I'm getting from that, because you say it always goes better than I thought. So it's just an irrational thought that can just be seen, and the fear can be felt. But you can remind yourself there's nothing I can do about the thoughts that come to my head. There's nothing I can do about the feelings that follow. I can try to do something about them, but that's exhausting, and that doesn't work for long. So I'm just going to live by, what? There's nothing I can do about it. Which again sounds depressing, but it's not. It's very liberating. Thanks, Wonder Bro. No problem, Brian. Just stay on track, dude. Stay on track. Do not get back up into your mind asking what you can do about this or that. There's nothing you need to do about it, right? Yo, sorry I'm late. What's up, Tony? What's up, Tony? Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Guys, also, I wanted to bring this up. If there is a role that you're missing on the Discord, right? If there is a role that you're missing on the Discord, let's say, for example, you need the donator role, or you've been here for years and you need that trusted member role, please go over to the Request a Role channel on there and drop it in there. I'm going to be looking at that after the stream goes off and trying to get that all settled. So if you need a role, please try to make that request today if you can. Hey, that's awesome, Terry. Proud of you, dude. And it all happened from acceptance. Acceptance, which means practicing acceptance. What does it look like to practice acceptance? It looks like this. Oh, I caught myself fighting with these thoughts and feelings. I'm going to take a step back and say, so be it. 2 seconds later, I want to fight again. Nope, not doing it. So be it, right? That's what it looks like. I mean, that could be true too, Bruno, but that would be more or less is somebody using alcohol as a coping method, which I don't think Sean is. I think he just hangs out with his friends, which is fine. But if you are using alcohol as a coping method, it can get a bit slippery. It's not a good cycle, because the alcohol usually makes you feel worse the next day, so you have to drink again, so forth and so on. Thanks for that, Christine. Although I will say I would never discourage someone from seeing a doctor if they think they have something going on with them. Go get cleared by a doctor. Obviously, go get cleared by a doctor. I'll never discourage anyone from doing that. But you know, if my advice is helping you, that's awesome. That's great. My mind is looking for solutions and causing suffering by doing this. See, you're already a step ahead of the game, Sam. You're already so many steps ahead of the game and you don't even realize it. You already know what's going on. You know that your mind is looking for solutions that is causing suffering. So when you catch yourself participating in that, take a step back and say, no, we're no longer going to look for solutions. So be it. Practice that. And that might mean that you have to rinse and repeat that a lot. Don't think that this doesn't involve some work, because it does, and that's okay. Some advice for worst case scenario thinking whenever an illness pops up. So maybe you or a loved one has an illness, there's a pandemic going around, and then automatically we want to jump into worst case scenario thinking. Now, again, just like I told Sam, it takes a conscious effort to do this, but I urge you to do this anytime you notice yourself participating, because that's essentially what you're doing. The mind sends a worst case scenario thought, it sends a what if, and then you participate by joining in on that thought and arguing with it, fighting with it, entertaining it. We want you to just step back when those thoughts come and you say, you know what, so be it. The cards will fall where they will. And to some people that sounds depressing because they're like, well, that means I'm agreeing with the what if thought. It doesn't mean you're agreeing with the thought. It means you're no longer arguing with a toddler, which is essentially what you're doing when you argue with your mind. And because you know that now, you're no longer going to argue with a toddler. So it doesn't mean that you agree with the mind when it says, my loved one could die from this. When I say, when I take a step back to that thought and I say, okay, it is what it is, that doesn't mean I'm agreeing that yes, my loved one's going to die. I know it sounds that way, but what it means is you're no longer going to try to argue with a toddler, right? So understand that. Understand that. Yeah, that's cool, Sean. Keep us updated, dude. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with support. That's why we have this community. You'll need reassurance and you'll need support less and less as time goes on, but there's nothing wrong with a little bit of it, right? I didn't start on my own and just fucking, was perfect at this overnight. It took me some time. I had some support from friends in the community, right? I use so be it phrase and it truly works. It does, Bruno, as long as you keep it up. As long as you keep it up and you understand that saying so be it and adopting the attitude of so be it doesn't mean you're trying to force the anxiety away. It means that you're literally saying so be it. Healing will happen in time. You're not saying so be it and then saying, has it gone away yet? No, 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 you're not doing that. You're just literally sticking to it, right? Yeah, I hope that made sense, Keith. I don't want you to think I'm telling you to agree with that, or trying to convince you that you need to agree with the thought that says my loved one might die from this illness. I'm not telling you that you're agreeing with that. I'm simply telling you that you're saying so be it, not because you agree, but because you're not arguing with a toddler, right? Because if you argue with that thought, it's just going to give you a million other thoughts about why it might happen, right? So it's just like trying to scream back at a toddler. So I hope that makes sense, Keith. I hope that answers your question, dude. I'm not telling anyone that they have to agree, like downright literally agree with these thoughts. I'm telling people that you have to accept the uncertainty of life and no longer argue with the toddler that lives in your head, right? That's what I am saying. So I hope the difference there is understandable. Because some people do get caught up on that. They're like, Wonder Bro, if I say so be it to that thought, does that mean that I'm agreeing with it? No. It means that you're no longer going to fight with a toddler, right? Everybody get that? I know that throws some people off at first, and that's uncomfortable to do for some people at first for that reason, and that's why I wanted to clarify that. Hey, Wonder Bro, I'm new to your channel. Well, welcome. Welcome, Giant. Exactly, Barbara. The fear can be intense, and if you cut out coping methods, it might feel like this fear is growing, and that's okay. We don't want you to shy away from it. This is not about making it go away. That happens in time with healing. This is about embracing it, even if it does feel like it's growing. You're still no longer fighting with it, and you got to feel it to heal it, and that's why we've been saying you got to feel it to heal it, right? Hey, Wonder Bro, no question today, but I just want to say thank you for what you do for us sufferers. I appreciate that, Kevin. Hope the channel is helping you out. A lot of people do get caught up on that, guys. I'm not telling you that, you know, and I know you're probably sick of hearing me saying it. I've already said it twice, but I just want to make sure that I'm being clear on this. I'm not telling you that if your mind says something horribly awful and you get anxiety from it, that by saying, I'm not telling you that you have to agree with it. I'm just saying that you're no longer going to argue with a toddler. So when your mind says you might go crazy and you say, so be it, break out the straitjacket, right? It's not that you believe deep down in your heart that you're going to go crazy one day. It's simply that you're not going to fight with this fear anymore. You're not going to argue with a toddler anymore. In real life serious worries, well, the thing about real life serious worries is there anything that you can get up and do right now? Is there any steps that you can take right now with your real life, your real life real worries? Is there anything you can do? If the answer to that question is yes, go do it. More than likely, the answer to that question is going to be no, because if there was something you could do about it, you would have already done it. So, again, the same technique applies. The same technique is going to apply there because there's nothing you can do about it, right? So the same technique is going to apply there. But if there is something you could do about it, which I guarantee there's not, because you wouldn't have asked that question because you would have already took the action, right? But if there is something you can do about it, do it. But I think you get what I'm getting at there. Definitely got to feel it to heal it. Absolutely, Tony. 110%, dude. 110%. We've been trying to drive home that point here recently. Let's get a sub count, guys. We're so close to that 10K. If you're watching right now and you're not subscribed, man, be one of our lucky numbers. Be one of those people that get us one step closer to 10K. We're at 9,944 right now, so we're almost at 50 people away from 10K. So if you're looking for a sign to subscribe, this is it. It couldn't be a more clear sign to subscribe than this moment right here. So there you go. We are so close, man. We are so close. I haven't decided 100% what we're doing for 10K, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out, I'm sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to approach that 1 hour mark. We're going to go ahead and shut it down here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for your tips. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Watching, liking, everything. I love you guys. Let's see. I'm glad I didn't end it right away. I did get a $7 tip from Keith that says, thanks for the support, Chris. Regards, Keith. Keith, thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much for that $7 tip. I'm glad I caught it in time. Let's take a moment. Okay? Wonder Bros promised he will finally reveal the third key. There is no third key. You got it. That was funny, though. Let's take a moment before we end it to thank all of our tippers today. Abraham, Terry, Official G, Sam, Keith. I feel like I'm missing somebody, dude. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Am I missing somebody? Robert, Terry, Sam, Official G, Keith. I hope I'm not missing anybody, but thank you guys so much for your tips. Thank you for watching. I love you, and I'll see you very, very soon. 10K right around the corner. Remember, you got to feel it to heal it. So be it. Go through it, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Until next time, as always, right there, stay awesome.